There is a woman living on a small island in southern Japan who turned 106 years old last spring. She has never taken a single prescription medication in her life. Her doctor said her blood work looks like it belongs to someone in their early 60s. Her bones are strong, her memory is sharp, her heart beats like a clock that refuses to slow. And when researchers finally tested her DNA, they found something that stopped them cold. She carries a specific version of a gene that fewer than 2% of people on Earth possess. That gene does not give her superhuman strength. It does not make her immune to disease. What it does is something far more powerful and far more overlooked by modern medicine. It tells her cells to repair themselves, constantly, automatically, while she sleeps, while she eats, while she walks through her garden pulling weeds. Her body is quietly fixing damage that would accumulate in yours. Now, before you decide that longevity is a lottery you already lost, there is something the researchers also discovered, something that changes the entire conversation about aging and DNA and who gets to grow old. They found that the pathway this gene activates is not exclusive to the people born with it. Anyone can switch it on, but almost nobody does because almost nobody knows it exists. That is what this video is about, not a supplement, not a drug. Not some expensive clinic promising to reverse your biological clock for $3,000 a visit and a waiting list. This is about the single most validated longevity gene in the history of human genetics, the one gene that shows up again and again in centenarian studies across every ethnicity and every continent. And I'm going to walk you through exactly what it does, why most people never activate it, and what you can start doing this week to turn it on yourself, even if your DNA says you were not built for it. Let me ask you something first. Have you ever noticed that some people seem to age in slow motion, while others seem to fall apart overnight after they turn 65 or 70? You probably know someone like that, someone in their 80s who still drives, still cooks, still argues about politics at the dinner table like they have somewhere important to be the next morning. And then you know someone else, maybe younger, maybe the same age, who can barely get through the day. Their joints hurt, their thinking is foggy, their energy disappears by noon and never comes back. For decades, we blamed lifestyle. We said the difference was diet or exercise or stress or luck. And all of those things do matter, but they are not the full answer, and science finally proved it. The full answer starts inside your cells, inside a tiny instruction manual written before you were born, written by the parents and grandparents and ancestors you never met and never chose. Your DNA does not just decide the color of your eyes or the shape of your nose. It decides how fast your cells break down, how well your body handles stress, and whether your repair system works at full power or half power. Most people walk around with their cellular repair running at half power. They do not feel it. They do not see it. Not at 30, not even at 50. But by the time they reach 65, it starts showing. The skin sags. The joints ache. The memory stumbles on words it used to find instantly. And they assume this is just what aging looks like because everyone around them seems to be going through the same thing. But what if it is not aging itself that does this? What if it is your body failing to clean up the damage that aging causes? And what if the only difference between you and that woman in Japan is a switch, a biological switch inside every cell you own, a switch that she was born with already turned on, and a switch that you were probably born with turned off. Not broken, not missing, just sitting there, waiting. That switch has a name. Scientists call it FOXO3, and by the time you finish watching this video, you're going to understand exactly why it matters more than any supplement bottle in your cabinet. You're also going to understand why your doctor probably never mentioned it, not because they are hiding something, but because most doctors are trained to treat disease, not to prevent the conditions that create it. FOXO3 is not a treatment, it is not a cure. It is a cellular defense system that either works for you or sits idle, while damage piles up inside your body, year after quiet year. And here's the part that genuinely matters. Whether you were born with the protective version of this gene or not, the pathway it controls can be activated by choices you make every single day. So let me explain what FOXO3 actually does inside your body, not the textbook version. The version that matters when you're 60 or 70 or 80 and want to still feel like yourself. FOXO3 is a transcription factor. That is a scientific term for a protein that tells your genes what to do. Think of it like a foreman walking through a factory, flipping switches, barking instructions, keeping everything running. When FOXO3 is active, it walks through your cells and flips on the genes responsible for 4 critical jobs: DNA repair, stress resistance, autophagy, and stem cell maintenance. 4 jobs that determine whether you age slowly or fast. Let us start with DNA repair. Every single day, your cells suffer thousands of tiny injuries to their DNA. Sunlight causes some, breathing causes some, even eating causes some. This is completely normal. When you're young, your body repairs this damage almost instantly, but as you get older, the repair system slows down. Mistakes start piling up. Damaged cells start multiplying instead of being fixed or removed. When enough damaged cells accumulate in one place, that is when you get disease, cancer, heart disease, cognitive decline. These are not random events. They are the end result of unrepaired cellular damage stacking up over decades. FOXO3 activates the genes that run your DNA repair crew. When FOXO3 is working, the crew shows up every day, finds the damage, and fixes it before it becomes a problem. When FOXO3 is dormant, the crew barely comes to work. Now let us talk about the second job, stress resistance. Your cells are constantly under attack from something called oxidative stress. You have probably heard the term free radicals. This is what they cause. Free radicals are unstable molecules that bounce around inside your cells and damage everything they touch: membranes, proteins, mitochondria. They are like tiny wrecking balls that never stop swinging. Your body produces antioxidants to neutralize them, but when the free radicals outnumber the antioxidants, the damage wins. This imbalance is one of the central drivers of aging in every organ and every tissue in your body. FOXO3 boosts your body's natural antioxidant defenses from the inside, not from a pill, not from a powder, from within the cell itself. It tells your genes to produce more of the enzymes that neutralize those wrecking balls. The third job is autophagy. This is one of the most important biological processes most people have never heard of. Autophagy literally means self-eating. It sounds alarming, but it is the opposite. Autophagy is your body's recycling system. When a cell component gets too old or too damaged to function properly, autophagy breaks it down and uses the parts to build something new and functional. Without autophagy, damaged proteins and broken mitochondria pile up inside your cells like garbage that nobody collects. The cell gets sluggish, it stops working efficiently. It starts sending out inflammatory signals that affect every neighboring cell. FOXO3 is one of the primary triggers of autophagy. When it is active, your cellular cleanup crew runs on schedule. When it is inactive, the garbage accumulates, and you feel it as fatigue, inflammation, brain fog, and joint stiffness. The fourth job is stem cell maintenance. This one is personal because it determines how well your body can regenerate itself as you age. Your body has a reserve of adult stem cells in nearly every tissue. These stem cells are your biological backup plan. When tissue gets damaged, stem cells divide and produce fresh, healthy cells to replace what was lost. This is how wounds heal, how muscles rebuild, how organs recover from injury. But the stem cell pool shrinks as you age. By your 60s, the reserve is significantly smaller than it was in your 30s. By your 80s, some tissues barely have enough stem cells left to maintain basic function. FOXO3 is the primary gene responsible for maintaining the adult stem cell pool. It keeps stem cells in a protective resting state so they do not burn out prematurely. It ensures that when your body needs them, they are there. So now you can see why this single gene matters so much. It is not doing one thing. It is running four separate systems that all work together to keep your body repairing, defending, cleaning, and regenerating decade after decade. And here's where the betrayal comes in, because in most people, FOXO3 is barely active. Not because of disease, not because of injury, because of the way modern life accidentally shuts it down. FOXO3 is designed to activate under stress, not emotional stress, biological stress, the kind your body used to experience naturally, periods without food, intense physical exertion, temperature extremes. These are the signals that wake FOXO3 up. But modern life has eliminated almost all of those signals. We eat constantly, we sit for hours, our homes are perfectly temperature controlled, our bodies never receive the stress signals that FOXO3 needs to switch on. So the gene sits dormant, the repair crew stays home, the recycling stops, the stem cells burn out, and the body ages faster than it was ever designed to. Not because of bad genes, because of a missing signal. Now, I would not be telling you any of this if it were just theory. The evidence behind FOXO3 is not preliminary. It is not one study from one lab. It is one of the most replicated findings in longevity research. The first breakthrough came from a study of elderly Japanese American men in Hawaii. Researchers tracked over 8,000 men for decades and found specific variations in FOXO3 that were dramatically more common in the longest lived. Men who carried two copies of the protective variant had roughly triple the odds of reaching 100 compared to men who carried none. Not a small difference, not a statistical blip, triple the odds. And that finding was not an isolated result. Within a few years, independent teams in Germany confirmed it. Then Italy, then China, then France. Population after population. The same gene kept showing up in the same Centenarian studies. What makes FOXO3 remarkable in the world of genetics is its consistency. Most longevity genes are population-specific. They show up in one ethnic group, but not another. FOXO3 shows up everywhere, every time, without exception. Researchers in Germany studied over 1,700 centenarians and found the same protective variants. The association was even stronger in people who lived past 100 than in those who lived to 90. The older the person, the stronger the link. A study in southern Italy confirmed it again. A meta-analysis combining results from multiple populations confirmed it again. The evidence is so consistent that FOXO3 is now considered one of only two genes with ironclad links to human longevity. The other gene is ApoE, which you may have heard of in connection to Alzheimer's disease, but ApoE is primarily about disease risk. FOXO3 is about something broader. It is about the entire aging process itself. The centenarians who carry protective FOXO3 variants do not just live longer, they live healthier. They have lower rates of cardiovascular disease, lower rates of cancer, better cognitive function, better metabolic health across the board. And this is the critical distinction. FOXO3 does not just add years to your life. It adds life to your years. It compresses the period of decline into a shorter window at the very end, instead of stretching it across decades. That is what the researchers call compressed morbidity. Instead of spending your last 20 years struggling with one disease after another, the centenarians with active FOXO3 tend to stay functional until very close to the end. Now, you might be wondering whether you carry the protective version. Most people do not. The fully protective homozygous variant is rare, but that does not mean you're out of options, and I want to make that very clear, because here's what the research also shows. The gene itself is only part of the equation. The activity of the gene, meaning whether it is switched on or off, is heavily influenced by your environment and your behavior. Two people can carry the exact same version of FOXO3 and have wildly different outcomes. One activates it through daily habits. The other shuts it down through the same modern lifestyle that shuts down most people's FOXO3 without them knowing. The centenarians in the studies did not know they carried this gene. They were not following a FOXO3 activation protocol. They were simply living in ways that naturally triggered it, moving their bodies, eating less, experiencing temperature variation, resting deeply. And that is the real lesson from 3 decades of longevity genetics. The genes matter less than whether you give them the right environment to do their job. Your DNA is not your destiny. Your daily habits are. A study on caloric restriction showed that reducing food intake activated FOXO3 through a pathway involving sirtuins, which are another group of longevity proteins. The less you eat within healthy limits, the harder FOXO3 works to protect you. Another study found that endurance exercise specifically increases FOXO3 activity, not extreme exercise, not marathon training, steady, moderate movement sustained over time, walking, swimming, cycling, the kind of movement you can do every single day without injury. Heat exposure was shown to activate FOXO3 in animal studies. Researchers believe this helps explain why populations that regularly use saunas or hot baths show lower rates of cardiovascular disease and dementia. And then there is sleep. Disrupted sleep and irregular circadian rhythms impair the metabolic pathways that FOXO3 depends on. People who sleep poorly are not just tired. They are silencing one of their body's most important protective genes. Green tea contains a compound called EGCG that has been shown to activate FOXO3 directly. Quercetin, found in onions and apples, does the same thing. These are not exotic supplements. They are foods sitting in your kitchen right now, so the evidence tells us 2 things. First, this gene is real, it is powerful, and it has been validated across more populations than almost any other gene in longevity science. Second, you do not need to be born with it to benefit from it. The pathways it controls are available to everyone, they just need to be woken up. And the tools for waking them up are not expensive, and they are not complicated. They are ancient, they are free, and they are sitting right in front of you. So let me show you exactly what to do. Not a general list of health tips, a specific protocol based on the research that activates the FOXO3 pathway, whether you carry the protective variant or not. The first thing you can do starting today is introduce a daily eating window, not a starvation diet, not calorie counting, just a simple window of time during which you eat, and a longer window during which you do not eat. The research suggests that a 14 to 16-hour overnight fast is enough to trigger meaningful FOXO3 activation. That means if you finish dinner at 7 in the evening, you do not eat again until 9 or 11 the next morning. This is not punishment. This is a signal. You're telling your cells that resources are temporarily scarce, and that signal switches on the FOXO3 pathway, which begins repairing damage and clearing out broken cellular components while you sleep. If you have diabetes or take medication that affects blood sugar, please talk to your doctor before trying this. But for most healthy adults over 55, a 14-hour overnight fast is safe, manageable, and remarkably effective. The second thing is movement, and I want to be very specific about the type. FOXO3 responds best to sustained moderate exercise, not short bursts, not high-intensity intervals, steady effort over 30 minutes or more at a pace where you can still hold a conversation. Walking is the simplest and safest option. 30 minutes of brisk walking every day is enough to measurably increase FOXO3 activity. If you can do 45 minutes, even better. If you can do it outside in natural light, better still. Swimming works beautifully for people with joint issues. Cycling on a stationary bike works if the weather keeps you inside. The key is consistency. FOXO3 does not respond to one heroic workout followed by a week on the couch. It responds to the daily signal that your body is active and needs to maintain its repair systems at full capacity. Show up every day, move for 30 minutes. Do that for 8 weeks, and the cellular changes begin compounding. The third protocol is heat exposure. If you have access to a sauna, Try spending 15 to 20 minutes at moderate heat 2 to 3 times per week. Research connects regular heat exposure to activation of FOXO3 and reduced cardiovascular risk. If you do not have a sauna, a hot bath works. 20 minutes in water hot enough to make you sweat lightly. The mechanism is the same. Your body registers heat stress, and FOXO3 wakes up to protect your cells from the perceived threat. If you have heart conditions or blood pressure issues, start gently and talk to your doctor first. Heat exposure is powerful, but it needs to match your current health status. Do not overdo it. The goal is mild discomfort, not suffering. The fourth protocol is diet, not a complicated diet plan, just a few specific additions that research shows directly activate the FOXO3 pathway. Start with green tea. 2 to 3 cups a day provides enough EGCG to make a measurable difference. If you do not enjoy green tea, matcha works even better because the concentration of EGCG is higher. If caffeine bothers you, decaffeinated green tea still contains EGCG and can be consumed in the evening without disrupting sleep. Add quercetin-rich foods, onions, especially red onions, apples with the skin on, capers, berries. These foods contain a compound that research links directly to FOXO3 activation and reduced inflammation in aging tissues. Consider adding cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, kale, and Brussels sprouts. These contain sulforaphane, which has been shown to support autophagy, one of the 4 critical systems that FOXO3 controls. Eat them lightly steamed for best absorption. The 5th protocol is sleep. This one is non-negotiable. FOXO3 activation depends on healthy circadian rhythm. If your sleep is broken, inconsistent, or too short, the pathway cannot function properly no matter what else you do right. Aim for 7 to 8 hours. Go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, including weekends. Sleep in a dark room. Avoid screens for at least 1 hour before bed. This is not optional advice. This is the foundation everything else builds on. If you struggle with sleep, address it before adding any other protocol. A body that sleeps well activates FOXO3 naturally during the night. A body that sleeps poorly suppresses it no matter how many cups of green tea you drink. The 6th thing is reducing chronic inflammation. Processed foods, excess sugar, seed oils, and prolonged sitting all create low-grade inflammation that actively suppresses FOXO3. You do not need to be perfect. You need to reduce the load. Replace 1 processed meal a day with whole food. Reduce added sugar gradually over 2 weeks. Stand up and move for 5 minutes every hour if you sit for long periods. Small changes, repeated daily. Remove the inflammation that keeps FOXO3 dormant. Now here is something most people miss. These protocols do not work in isolation. They are synergistic. Fasting plus exercise activates FOXO3 more powerfully than either one alone. Sleep plus reduced inflammation lets the activation actually last. You do not need to do all 6 perfectly starting tomorrow. Pick 2. The eating window and the daily walk are the easiest starting points. Do those consistently for 4 weeks. Then add green tea, then adjust sleep. Build the stack 1 layer at a time. The compounding effect is real. Within 8 weeks of consistent practice, research shows measurable changes in markers of inflammation, oxidative stress, and cellular repair. You will not see it under a microscope. You will feel it in your energy, your clarity, your joints. And I want you to understand something. You're not trying to become a centenarian. You're trying to give your cells the same protective environment that centenarians naturally create. The gene is the blueprint. The lifestyle is the builder. Now let me tell you what happens if you ignore all of this, not to scare you, but because I think you deserve honesty about what is actually happening inside your body when these pathways stay shut down. Without active FOXO3, your DNA repair slows dramatically after age 60. Damaged cells that should have been caught and fixed start accumulating. Some of them become senescent. They stop dividing but refuse to die. Senescent cells sit in your tissues and release inflammatory chemicals called cytokines. These cytokines damage neighboring healthy cells, which creates more senescent cells, which release more cytokines. It is a cycle that feeds itself. This chronic low-grade inflammation has a name. Researchers call it inflammaging. And it is now considered one of the primary drivers of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, and most cancers that appear after age 60. Without autophagy running properly, your cells fill up with damaged mitochondria. These broken energy factories produce less energy and more waste products. You feel it as fatigue that sleep does not fix and brain fog that coffee cannot cut through. Without stem cell maintenance, your body gradually loses the ability to repair tissue damage. A cut takes longer to heal. A muscle injury lingers for months. A bone fracture that would have healed in 6 weeks now takes 12. None of this happens overnight. It creeps year by year, decade by decade, so slowly that you adjust to each new limitation as if it were inevitable, as if this is just what getting older means. But the centenarians prove it is not inevitable. They prove that a human body can maintain function deep into the 90s and beyond when the repair systems stay active. The difference is not magic. The difference is a gene that stayed switched on. And if you were not born with the protective variant, the difference is whether you create the conditions that activate it artificially through the daily choices you make about food, movement, sleep, and stress. I meet people every week who tell me they feel too old to change anything. They are 68 or 74 or 81, and they believe the window has closed, that whatever damage has been done is permanent and irreversible. The research says otherwise. Studies on intermittent fasting in people over 60 show measurable improvements in inflammatory markers within weeks, not months, not years, weeks. The body responds faster than most people expect when given the right signal. Exercise studies in people over 70 show increased FOXO3 activity and improved autophagy markers after just 8 weeks of consistent moderate walking. 8 weeks, that is not a lifetime commitment. That is 2 months of putting on your shoes. Your cells are not dead. They are waiting. The repair machinery is still there. The recycling system is still there. The stem cells, though fewer, are still there. What is missing is the signal that tells them to wake up and get to work. You are the signal. Your morning walk is the signal. Your eating window is the signal. Your cup of green tea is the signal. Your decision to go to bed at the same time every night is the signal. And I know this sounds simple, almost too simple for something that involves your DNA and your longevity and the quality of the next 20 or 30 years of your life. But that is exactly the point. The most powerful interventions in aging research are not complicated, they are ancient. They are the habits that humans practiced for thousands of years before modern convenience removed them from our daily lives. Fasting was not a diet trend. It was a biological reality for most of human history. Daily physical labor was not exercise, it was survival. Temperature variation was not a wellness hack, it was just Tuesday. Your body evolved expecting those signals. FOXO3 evolved expecting those signals. And when the signals disappeared, the gene went quiet. Not broken, not gone, just waiting for someone to send the message again. So here's what I want you to do. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today, pick the one protocol that feels most manageable, the eating window or the walk. Just one, and start it tonight or tomorrow morning. Do it for 7 days without judging the results. Just build the habit. Then on day 8, add the second protocol. By the end of the month, you will have 3 running. By the end of 2 months, your body will be telling you something different than it has been. You will feel it before any lab test confirms it. More energy in the afternoon, fewer aches in the morning, sharper thinking by midday. These are not placebo effects. These are the downstream results of cellular repair systems coming back online. 2% of people were born with this advantage. That is true, but the other 98% are not locked out. They just need to do what the centenarians did naturally: move, fast, rest, repeat, every day for the rest of their lives. If this video helped you understand something about your body that no one ever explained before, subscribe to this channel. I make videos like this every week because I believe everyone deserves to know what their body is capable of. And leave a comment telling me this. What is the one protocol you're going to start with today? The eating window or the daily walk? I read every comment, and I want to know which one you chose. I will see you in the next video.